Hi there, this is golf instructor Steve Bishop from the Gateway to Better Golf, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the swing plane and the finish and how those two ideas relate to each other. Now, first of all, I'd like to say that the finish is my absolute most favorite part of the golf swing. The reason is because it's one of the only two static positions in the entire golf swing. What I mean by static? Well, when you stand there and you're holding your finish, you're holding it. You're not moving anymore. And because of that, we can start to make certain evaluations. We could say, that is where I want to be, that's not where I want to be, I want to be here instead, I want to be there instead, or I'm perfectly fine where I'm at. You can't make that determination at any other part of your golf swing because the rest of the golf swing is in motion. And it's very, very difficult to tell what's going on while the swing is actually occurring. But on the finish, we have that advantage of being able to stand there and hold it for as long as it takes to make our determination. Now let's also talk about the swing plane. As you'll notice, I have, for demonstration purposes, I have this shaft sticking into the ground, and I have another shaft that's basically flat on the ground. Now this shaft that's on the ground is pointing out at my target, and ideally it would be dissecting the golf ball, but unfortunately I don't have one that goes through a golf ball. Now this shaft here on the ground is, you'll notice, at an inclined, it's about a 45-degree angle like this. It's what we call an inclined plane. Now if we were to have a steep plane, it would be much more upright like this. If we wanted a flat plane, it would be much more like this. Okay? So this is steep, this is flat, and this is about where I'm at about a 45-degree angle. Now, this shaft is pointing essentially at what we call our plane line. That's, again, this line, the shaft pointing out to our target between our golf ball. That's our plane line. The shaft is pointing at the plane line. While we swing the golf club, we should essentially be pointing the club either at our plane line or parallel to it at all times of the golf swing. Alright? So again, that's pointing at the shaft, pointing at the plane line, or parallel to it. Now that goes from when we take the club back in our takeaway. Now you'll notice that the shaft is parallel to this plane line, and essentially the butt end of my club is pointing at the target. That means I'm on a good plane, right? Now when we take it up to this position, you'll notice now that the butt end of the club is pointing at my plane line, okay? And it's at about the same angle as what I have here for the shaft on the ground. Then at the top of the golf swing, the club is now pointing at my target, and once again, parallel to the plane line. Now when we swing forward, once again, shaft is pointing at the plane line. Now it's parallel to the plane line. Impact, it's pointing at the plane line. Then as we go through to the follow-through, once again, the shaft is parallel to the plane line, pointing at the plane line, and then all the way to the finish, where at the finish we have the butt end of the club again is pointing at the target, and the shaft is again parallel to the plane line. Now, some of us also have a little extra rotation that once we get past this point, we then continue on with a little bit more extra turn. And at that particular point, once again, we want the shaft to essentially be very close to pointing, once again, at the plane line. Alright, so now that you understand the geometry of the swing plane, let's talk about how it relates to the finish. Now, as you can see, I've changed this around so that now you are my target and I'm facing you instead. And what you'll notice is that now that swing plane pointing at the target, on the follow-through and on the release, the club will now point at you guys, okay? And once again, parallel to the shaft, to the plane line. Now on the follow-through, the butt end of the club points down at the plane line, and on the finish, the butt end of the club points essentially at you guys. And what I see with most amateurs, especially those fighting a slice, is that they have somehow shifted this plane line to go out to the left of the target. And what I will see them do then is during the golf swing, they swing basically out here to the left. And the result is on the finish, instead of having the club pointing at the target, they now have it pointed left of the target. Then on the follow-through, the club is actually usually even a little bit flat. Okay, it's no longer pointing at the plane line, it's actually pointing above the plane line. And then on the finish, the shaft will be relatively horizontal, and the butt end will be pointing out here to this direction instead of out here at the target. And that indicates to me that they have a very poor release. They're not getting the club face closed. They're not getting it shut enough to make the golf ball go straight. So how do you fix that? Well, there's two parts of the finish that I look to help me identify whether or not somebody has released the club and shut it down the proper amount. As we go through here to the release, you'll notice that now the left elbow starts to bend and points down out in front of my chest, points down to the ground, as the right arm starts to extend. You'll also notice that the right shoulder is down lower than my left shoulder. And as we go through, there's the release now to the follow-through. Again, more bend with the left elbow, right shoulder is still down, and on the finish, still, left elbow is bent out in front of my chest, right shoulder is down. Okay? What I see instead with amateurs is they swing out here to the left, right shoulder starts to come up above the left shoulder, and the left elbow, instead of being out here, is out here to the left. And notice, you can tell, just by when I move that arm across like that, notice that now the butt end of the shaft is pointing out here to the left, instead of pointing at you guys. All because I move that elbow out away from out in front of my chest. So if you want to fix your slice, one of the things I really hone in on, and one of the things I always teach my students, is you want to get the butt end of the club pointing at the target, the right shoulder down lower than the left, and the left elbow should be out here in front of your chest. Hi, this is golf instructor Steve Bishop from the Gateway to Better Golf, giving you today's web tip. And today we're going to be talking about the cupping of the left wrist at the top of the backswing. A lot of you guys have a problem with this at the top. And this essentially stems from a problem with your grip, and you probably don't even realize it. Basically, what we want is at the top of the golf swing, our left thumb should be underneath the shaft so that we have something to balance the club on. Okay? That's at the top of our backswing. Now, if you put the thumb of your left hand directly on top of the shaft, this is going to become a problem for you. Because since our arm comes across our body at an angle, if we actually take it up like that and we flatten out our left wrist, that's going to put the left thumb off to the side of the shaft and not directly underneath it. So the only choice we have then, if we have our thumb on top of the shaft, is to cup our left wrist so that now the thumb is underneath the shaft. So how do you fix that? Well, it's actually a very simple way to do that. You simply take the left thumb and put it a little bit off to the side so that now you have a gap between your index finger and your left thumb. By doing that, when you take the club back up to the top of the backswing, now you have a flat left wrist, and since the thumb was off to the side of the shaft, now it's actually directly underneath it at the top of your backswing. And that's today's web tip.